Hey, this is Valerie Love coming at you. And today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about cemeteries and what they have to do with magic. Exciting topic, isn't it? Cemeteries. So, first, I want to tell you that I am really a witchy witch because I find cemeteries fascinating and I find them everywhere I go. So, let's talk about cemeteries and the real meaning of them, how you can use cemeteries in magic, how you can use cemeteries to transform yourself. So, before I go further, let me tell you a little story. You know how I love telling stories. So I'm walking in my neighborhood, walking. I love to walk. And one day I'm out on a walk. Now, I've been in this neighborhood. Now, before I tell you the rest of this story, let me preface this by saying I can find this sniffer right here, can find a cemetery anywhere. I'll be in a neighborhood, new to the neighborhood, I will find the cemetery. I'll be driving in my car. There's a cemetery somewhere off in the distance. My eye will go right over to the cemetery. I can be in a place where I've never seen before. I'll go straight toward the cemetery. So it's like I have this honing in me that leads me right to the cemetery. So I'm walking in my neighborhood. I thought I knew all the cemeteries in the neighborhood because, like I said, I can hone in on the cemeteries. But this particular day, I'm walking, and I'm in this high vibration of love and enjoying the day, and it's sunny outside, it's beautiful, and I'm in the groove and I'm feeling it, and I'm yes. And as I'm walking, I'm letting the spirit lead me. So I walk a road that I've never walked before. My soul just kind of calls me to that road. It's called Rock Road. So I'm walking down Rock Road, and all of a sudden, on the left hand side, what do I see but a cemetery? And let me tell you what kind of cemetery this is. This is one of my favorite kind of cemeteries. An old cemetery. Nothing like an old cemetery. I'm telling you the truth. Now, before I go further with this cemetery, let's talk about why cemeteries are so powerful. In addition to housing the remnants of the people who have been in this living world, in addition to that, the remnants are there, the shell is there, it's slowly making its way back into the nothingness from which it came. Secondly, there are the energies that surround those souls. So sometimes the soul itself of the person that's buried in that cemetery doesn't hang around that cemetery all the time. That soul is going all over the place, just like your soul is going all over the place now in the dream world and all different kinds of times during orgasm. Yeah, this is just coming to me. My guides are channeling this through me, so it's coming out of my mouth. So it's going to start talk. I'm going to start talking fast. When you're in these otherworldly states, your soul is journeying. Okay, so the soul doesn't always stay right in the cemetery where the person is buried. However, there will be a collection of souls at any particular cemetery, and there's just a whole lot of entities and ancestors and beings hanging out in a cemetery. So that's the second thing. The third thing is that I find when you look at cemeteries, the burial place of people, the headstone, or also known as a tombstone, when you read them and you look at who's buried where, it's almost like I can decode what happened in these people's lives when they were alive. So I could see a husband, and then next to the husband, a wife, and then a child. And sometimes I can get a vision of, many times, oftentimes, I can get a vision of this family and what happened. I can see almost when the couple got married, when they had their first child. Obviously, you can see when they had their first child or their children that are buried there from the birth dates of the dates that are on the tombstone. So I get to see sometimes there's a child that died before the husband, and there was the wife and maybe two kids. Or maybe there was a child that that died very early, like maybe the child was only 2, the child died, and then you have a husband and a wife, and maybe a year later the wife passes, and that may speak to dying of a broken heart after having a baby and the baby passing. So when I go to cemeteries, all this information about the people is channeling as I look at the tombstones. Well, what does that have to do with my life? It has a lot to do with my life because as a psychic, a medium, and a channel, information starts flowing through from the divine that really is useful to me in my life and to you, I pray, in service to you. I'm here in service to you. So, in service to you, in love, I gave myself to love. And so, love would have me do these things so that love can share this information, valuable information that may not be commonplace information, like, between me and you. This is not like front page of the New York Times. You probably won't see this story running in the Wall Street Journal, right, boo? This is like me and you, be right here. So this information wants to come through from the divine. So I'm walking down Rock Road. So back to the story. I'm walking down Rock Road. I'm feeling good. I'm walking. I'm in the groove. I'm moving with spirit. And cemetery. Woo! I look to the left. Now cemetery. That's like my playground. Woo! So not only is it an old cemetery, my favorite, it's also a cemetery next to a church. So most of the time you see a lot of cemeteries, old cemeteries next to a church. And in these little tiny towns, there was the church, and right next to the church is where they buried all the people in the town. So you have the church, the holy person would say some words, and then right next to the church, they bury the deceased. So that's the setup for this. I want to give you the visual of it. A tiny, old church on Rock Road and a cemetery next to it. Now, let me tell you how old this cemetery is. This cemetery has people buried in it from the 1800s, Black people that were in the area. Now, this cemetery is in Cambridge, Maryland, the home of Harriet Tubman. So I hang out and lived in many years on the eastern shore of Maryland. This is where Harriet Tubman's spirit is very strong. She was from that area, and her energy is very strong in Cambridge. I think that's why I was drawn to Cambridge, because some people call me Harriet Tubman nowadays, because my goal in life as a mission on this planet is to free your mind. Freedom. So I look at the cemetery. I see with the third eye entities in the cemetery that are not of the light. If you know what I mean, if you get my drift on that one. So here I am standing at the cemetery usually I would go right in, no hesitation. This time I was like, So I stood outside the cemetery and I asked my peeps, all these people that are around us. You have a whole team. You're like the Verizon guy. I got people. You know that Verizon guy with all those people around him? That's how you are. That's how I am. That's what we look like in the spirit realm. Angels, enlightened ancestors, spirit guides. You got this whole team of entities around you. So I check in with my team. I'm like, what's up with this? Should I go in? And the hesitation was from a little bit of fear, because when I saw them dark energies, I was like, I want to go in that cemetery. And guess what one of the angels said to me? One of the angels said to me, do you remember who you are? They should be running from you, not the other way around. So in a second, that angel brought me to my right mind and was like, you afraid of them? That's backwards. When you remember who you are, you will cause them to run. Darkness flees from the light. Did you remember that, Shona Ife? That was before I had my sacred name. So yeah, okay. So put up your crystal grid. What's a crystal grid? A crystal grid, I learned this from one of my teachers, is very powerful. It is an entire covering or grid around you of clear quartz crystal that only lets love in or out. So it's like this whole grid around you that only lets love in or out. Isn't that powerful? Use your crystal grid anytime you need to. Put up that crystal grid whenever you're going into a situation where you're going to be concerned, or there could be conflict. That's conflict and drama together. We call it conflict. Crystal grid. So I put up my crystal grid. I go into the cemetery. Fascinating, because I walk to the first plot, and there I see a man who has been gone on to the other side for many years. He was born in 1861, before slavery. This is a black man. He very well could have been born a slave, and at the date that he died, since the slaves were freed in 1865, the date that he died was after slavery. This man could have been born a slave. Then I go to another plot next to it, same last name, and by the dates of birth and the dates of deceasing, of going, it looks like this may have been his brother. And then I look at the next one. The whole family is there, and they're buried in these really old. The sarcophagus doesn't even look like how we bury people now. So back then, it was this concrete thing. It's still there, actually. It's not was, it is. It's this concrete thing, and part of it is actually above ground, which is very, very interesting. Now let's take a moment for a second, and let's go to New Orleans. So I'm in New Orleans, and pardon me, I'm in New Orleans, and the last time I was in New Orleans was the same year as Katrina hit. Now I'm going to make a whole nother video about that, because that has its whole host of magical stories and happenings that happened in that trip to Katrina, in that trip to New Orleans. So I'll make another video about that. The key thing I want to talk about with regard to New Orleans is the fact that everyone is buried above ground. All the dead people are with all the living people. That makes for some very interesting phenomena. So the last time I was in New Orleans, there was a lot going on, and in the spirit realm, it almost felt like a barrage of seeing things and being with things and experiencing things. It was a lot. So I have not been back to New Orleans since then, because my guides have not cleared me to go to New Orleans. That's just the kind of experience I had. More on that later. Meanwhile, back to the story. So when you have a cemetery where there are people that are kind of not all the way in the ground, they're still above ground, it makes for interesting phenomena. Now, there's a book called Go Tell My Horse by Zora Neale Hurston that I read many years ago. Go Tell My Horse. It is a book of voodoo, and Zora Neale Hurston was powerful, was an amazing author, playwright, and she was also an anthropologist. So she tells the story of going to Haiti, where there is all sorts of magic going on, and she talks about Haints, which are the spirits of dead people. We would maybe call them ghosts. Haints, and how there they actually chained people into the coffin so that the Haints wouldn't get up and walk all around with the living people. Many times Haints don't know they're dead. So it takes a while for a person to actually know that they're dead. So they're still going to work. They're still like in their house, laying in the bed with their wife and kids. They're not all the way acclimated like to the other side, especially if they went abruptly. It's like a jar, so they don't really know that they're gone. And if you want to really get this, there is a movie called Passengers. The Passengers, I think that's the name of the movie. It was with Sandra Bullock. Watch that movie. Very enlightening about the spirit realm and about how people who have recently crossed over, how they operate. So anyway, we have this cemetery that I'm in, so I'm looking at the sarcophagus above ground, And then I see some other ones that are buried underground. So late as the years go on, you can see that people are now going underground. But some of them, and because the earth has moved since these people have been there, some of them been there over 100 years. The sarcophagus has shifted. So some of them are kind of crooked. They're not kind of how they were when they first went in. This is so fascinating to me. So I continue walking, and something is drawing me to the back of the cemetery. So I'm walking. And it's a Sunday afternoon. It's beautiful outside. I'm loving it. I'm feeling it. I got my crystal grid up. My angels are there. My guides. Everybody's talking. And we're having a ball. So something is calling me to the back of the cemetery. So I keep moving through the cemetery, and I'm reading the tombstones, and I'm channeling information about people's lives, and I continue moving in the direction that I feel led to go. And all the way at the back of the cemetery, there's a fresh plot. I just have to take a breath on this because I still remember that day and how revealing, shocking, eye-opening this was. I go to the plot. Something's drawing me to this plot to look at it. It's fresh. The dirt on top is dark. It's dark colored dirt. The dates was just 1 year prior to when I was there. So this is a fresh being that has been freshly crossed over person that is buried on that plot. So of course I gingerly step around the plot, never step on top of the remains of any being. Never do that. Step around. So I gingerly step around the plot, and on the chest, where the heart center would be, where the heart chakra would be, is a white flower pot. And in the white flower pot is growing a rose bush. Now, I have never seen anything like this in cemeteries. I've been to a lot of cemeteries. I have never seen anyone place a flower pot on the deceased at the heart chakra. This was down on the actual plot of fresh dirt. And of course, there's a tombstone. Flowers around the tombstone. This is a beautifully taken care of spot, this grave spot. Beautifully taken care of grave. Now here's the shocker. I look at the name because now I'm going to read carefully the tombstone. And guess what? It has my name on it. Now, it didn't have the same last name. It has my first name, Valerie. Here lies Valerie. Well, let me tell you something. I didn't even get to the last name. I'm like, holy crap, what the hell is going on? I am totally bugging right now. I'm like, holy crap. And instantaneously, I just drop into tears. I just, tears. And my guides are standing there, and I can feel one of the angels with his hand on my back. He always just kind of has his hand on my back whenever I'm having these experiences because they know what's going to happen. They know why they brought me to the cemetery. I'm the one that doesn't know why I came to the cemetery. I'm just thinking I'm going to read about some dead people, right? So I drop, and I'm on my knees at this headstone, this tombstone, looking at my name. Here lies Valerie. The feeling, I cannot even describe to you in words the feeling that came over me when I saw my name. I dropped down. I'm crying. I'm just. And then here was the message. What are you waiting for? You don't have forever here. Wow. Live your life. Wow. Your days are numbered, Valerie. Your days are numbered. One day, you're going to be laying in a box, or your ashes will be tossed across the ocean. That's what I'm going to have. One day, you are not going to be here. What are you waiting for? And the reason that was so profound for me is because I had been procrastinating and delaying out of fear on doing what I know was mine to do, which includes having this powerful conversation with you, coming all the way out of the closet and letting people know I'm a witch. I love being a witch. I've always been a witch. I was born a witch. I come from a long line of witches, and that it's okay. It's all good. You can love yourself however you are. Witch, shaman, guru, priest, pastor, monk, nun, whatever you are. However you came to this planet to express, we're all spirit in human form. So it was a powerful, powerful nudge that says, you don't have a moment to waste. You've got to get this message out, and you've got to get the message out in a powerful way with your whole heart. Be wholehearted about it. Stop making apologies. Stop being in fear. Stop procrastinating. So if I'm talking to you right now, stop procrastinating. Stop being in fear. Stop hesitating. Stop delaying. You don't have forever. One day, they're going to stand over you, and they're going to say some words about you. And they're going to say what your life meant. And then we're going to put you in the ground or scatter your ashes across the ocean, whatever you desire. Same thing with me. One day they're going to put me in the ground. I won't be in this flesh earth suit anymore. And when we, you and I, when we go to the other side, there'll be one question. Did you do what you came here to do? And I leave you with that in love, praying it inspires you to do what you came here to do, to live your destiny today. Love you. Mwah! Valerie Love. Visit me online at liveyourdestinytoday.com. Not tomorrow. Procrastination is a terminal illness. It will kill you. We don't want you in the graveyard before your time. Love you.